Welcome back to the Players First podcast. Today I have on with me Wildcat legend Jarrod Polson, 2012 national champion. Really appreciate you coming on. How you doing?
Doing well. I appreciate you having me, Riley. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So it's been, about 6 years since you finished playing? Kind of give everyone an update as what you've been doing.
Yeah, 6 years. That I haven't really ever thought about that. That seems like a long time. But I've been doing a lot of different stuff. I do financial advising now. So I've been doing that for about going on 4 years. I've been married to my wife Ariel for going on 4 years as well, and we just had our first baby, a little girl named Avery. So
Congratulations.
yeah, I appreciate that. She's about 7 months now, so life is good, man. Can't complain at all. Doing the financial advising thing, getting to hang out with the new baby and wife, and loving life.
That's awesome. Are you still in Kentucky?
I am, yes. I actually grew up here, like right down the road from Lexington. So I live in Lexington today with my wife and daughters.
You didn't go to any games last year. You weren't able to get to any games last year, though, were you?
No, I don't. Well, I may have gone to one. I usually try to go to one or two a year.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I actually did go to any games last year.
You did go to one, I believe, last year, because I remember you came on the court.
Okay, maybe yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
I got my one game in. I watch them all though. I don't miss them, whether it's in person or on TV.
That makes sense. So speaking of your career at Kentucky, and you growing up right outside of Lexington, what made you choose to walk on at UK when you had scholarship offers to play at other Division I schools, other good programs?
Yeah, for me, honestly, it was just that, like growing up in a really small town, and being from Kentucky, like as a kid, that's like the number one dream you have. If you like basketball and you grow up in Kentucky, like for me, the dream wasn't the NBA. For me, the dream was Kentucky basketball. So even despite having other, offers from smaller schools, like that was my dream since I was probably 5 years old to be at Kentucky. So I knew even despite like probably not playing as much, being a walk-on coming in compared to, a scholarship somewhere else, I think I would always regret it if I did anything different than go to UK. So that was really the big decision, big reason.
Who was it that recruited you? Who and when did you kind of get the opportunity presented to you, and how long did it take before you jumped on it?
Yeah, so that was honestly, I didn't really get recruited by too many schools. Like I didn't really do any AAU. I played football in high school for a year, so I missed like the big AAU stuff. And I was also like a late bloomer, so I didn't really get any looks till junior and senior year of high school anyway. But Liberty was probably the one school that I would have gone to if I didn't go to Kentucky. Liberty University up in Virginia. I took a visit there and liked it pretty good. And then a bunch of just smaller like D1s, a lot of NAIA kind of local schools. So I really didn't have too many options. Liberty offered me a full scholarship, so that was probably the other one that I would have taken. But it really wasn't until after the end of my senior year of high school, so basketball was over, that Kentucky came into the picture. I think they were looking for like I don't even want to say backup point guard, but someone that can run the point guard position for like the scout team in practice. And so for whatever reason that was my year that I graduated, and I had done pretty well, locally in Kentucky as a high school senior. So things just worked out. They called me up one day and asked me to play some pickup with the guys, which that year was John Wall, Eric Bledsoe, DeMarcus Cousins. It was Cal's second year. So that was a pretty crazy moment of my life. I played pickup with them for about 2 weeks. And then at the end of that, I guess they liked enough of what they saw out of me that they were like, he can at least probably run that scout team point guard position. So they said, hey man, you got a spot on the team if you want it. We can't guarantee a scholarship or anything like that, but if one comes available, you'll probably get it. But you definitely have a spot on the team if you want it. So
How was that pickup? Because that can be really intimidating, especially as I remember I went and played pickup at St. Mary's,
Yeah.
After my senior year of high school. And St. Mary's had always been kind of a school I'd wanted to play at. Have history of good point guards, Matthew Dellavedova,
Yeah.
Patty Mills, and they were a top 25 team that year. And I was just, it's like intimidating when you're not used to playing around high level guys. And obviously Kentucky's a much different level than, Matthew Dellavedova and John Wall. It's a little bit different.
They're about the same. Yeah.
So how was it going against those guys and like walking into the gym and, how did you play?
Yeah, honestly, it was probably the most scared I've ever been in my life. I remember walking in the very first time, and I think it was Coach Robick that like walked me to the locker room. He's like, "All right, here, you can go in with the guys, get changed and stuff." So I'm literally walking in. I'm a kid, like I grew up a Kentucky fan, so like I've been watching these guys all year, like as a fan, not like an acquaintance or a friend. So like just they were all just chilling in the locker room, and they were just kind of looking at me like, who is this kid? I'm putting my red shoes on because that was the color of my high school. So not a good color to wear around Kentucky.
No, they'll come through there for it.
Yeah. I remember John Wall looking at me, and he was just like, "Who are you? Like, what are you doing here?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm just here to play some pickup." So it was crazy. It was, you probably felt this at St. Mary's, like from high school to college was such a transition. And playing pickup with those guys, I was like, wow, I went from being, by far the best player on my high school team to the very worst player on the court immediately. But it was really fun. Once you got the hang of it, it obviously wasn't easy, but at that point I realized, I'm never going to be the best player or anything like that, but I can at least hang for the most part. So I think that it was really scary, but it gave me a little bit of confidence during those 2 weeks. So it was a good experience for sure.
And then how soon after you were done playing pickup, like what was that, probably in around April, May, that you were playing pickup with them?
Yeah, so it would have been right after the season. So I think it would have probably been, late April, early May. Which is crazy, yeah, because like most people know where you're going. If you're going to play basketball in college, you should know where you're going by then. But I still had no idea. It was that time frame, I believe. Well, actually, it may have been earlier because they were still. Honestly, I can't remember because I'm trying to think. Usually after the season, they leave, like the players leave for a little bit. So sometime after the season, but while they were on campus for some reason.
No, that makes sense. And I'm assuming you went to summer school and everything?
Yeah. So went to summer school.
Quick turnaround.
It was a quick turnaround. Yeah, it was like a month later probably, and took my first class to go to summer school so I could do all the workouts with the team. I commuted from home. Like everyone else lived in the lodge because they were on scholarship. But so I commuted from Wilmore, which is the town I live in. So I was literally driving back and forth like 3 times a day to get the early morning workout in, then go to class, then do the pickup. And as you probably know, it's random a lot in the summer, like
yeah,
5 minutes before, hey, y'all want to play pickup? Sure. So I did a lot of driving that summer, which was not the most fun.
How long was the commute?
It wasn't bad. It was about 25 minutes, but
that's still not. That's
25 minutes there and back. Yeah.
3 times a day.
It was long enough to be a little bit annoying, but I was pretty much on cloud 9 at that point, so I didn't really care what I had to do.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How did your and Coach Cal's relationship develop throughout your time there? Because obviously, it takes some time. Because like you went from being someone who was, not on scholarship, late edition, to being a very, very important piece of teams while you're, junior and senior year, part of a national championship team. Like, talk about how your relationship with Coach Cal developed.
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, I think at first, I don't even think he knew my name at first, which is hilarious. Like, I think he called me Jerry for like the first 6 months I was there, which it's close. Like I knew who he was talking about. He would go back and forth. And so for me, it was more like I was shocked, more like a celebrity status thing. Like, oh my goodness, that's Coach Cal. Whereas I think the other players are more like, okay, this is just my next coach. Like
Mhm.
I've done this before. So I think it went from me from more like an intimidating person, like I would never talk to him unless he talked to me, which wasn't really the case. As you know, the walk-ons, like they're not at the top level of, needing to be coached or anything like that. Like there's a few players that are a little more important to the roles than us. So I didn't really, I think the relationship just grew obviously I was there for 4 years. So, being with him, I wouldn't say, we're best friends or anything like that, but over time you kind of get to, he starts to see my personality a little bit more. I get to know him and kind of how he operates better. So I don't even know if I answered that question the way
No,
you wanted, but it was,
that's hilarious that he call you Jerry. So
yeah.
my dad's name is John, and my dad and Coach Cal go back for a while. It's like, Memphis, even before that, like with Vance Wahlberg and the dribble drive. And so I'm pretty sure he calls my dad Johnny.
Okay.
And we had Johnny Juzang on the team this year.
Yep.
And then Johnny David was a walk-on last year, shortish, white.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like generally similar to me.
Right.
So Coach Cal would alternate between calling me Riley, Ryan, and Johnny. And obviously Ryan, it's like, oh, okay, I can see that. And then Johnny, he'd be screaming, Johnny, come here. And I wouldn't respond because my name is Johnny, and he'd get really upset with me. And
right.
I realize he's talking to me, and I'd sprint over there. You just kind of laugh and shake your head.
That's so good. That is so good. I can definitely relate.
But when you came to UK, obviously you ended up having a great career there. Carved very important roles on really good teams. Did you expect that? Was that kind of something you expected? Because a lot of walk-ons, pretty much every walk-on besides you, coming to UK knows we're going to contribute in a way that's not really going to be seen on the court.
Right. Yeah, I honestly I didn't really know what to expect. I knew going in that I'm definitely not going to get as much playing time as I could at some smaller school. But I think early on I realized although the competition was way higher, I still even in practice I could still compete. Like I said earlier, I wasn't ever going to be the best one, but I was good enough, I guess, to compete. So during that freshman year, I probably knew I wasn't going to get any playing time, but that was really my goal, honestly. From the time I joined UK was I just want to be a contributor somehow. And maybe that's not going to be freshman or sophomore year, but by the time I leave here, I want to at least get into some games that are meaningful. So for me personally, that was an expectation and a goal I had. I don't think many people had that for me, even family or anything like that. But I think that's what kind of kept me motivated, because you probably as a walk-on, you can kind of, you still work as hard as the other players, but your trajectory in life's going to be a lot different. You have I got to find something other than basketball that I'm going to do after all this. So I think having that goal from the get-go was good for me to still want to keep competing in practice and get the workouts in and all that.
That's awesome. And so Deb, one of our media relations people, helps me with the podcast. Awesome. I know you've known her for a long time. She texted me asking who my favorite player, former UK player was. And I responded with you because I've been I remember specifically watching the game versus Maryland your junior year.
Yeah.
I think you had 10 points in the second half and just kind of dominated the game. And it I could just see your teammates were going crazy and how cool it was. And I was like, wow, that's just the I've been a fan of yours ever since. So getting a chance to sit down and talk with you is really awesome. Just tell me about that game, because I believe it was the opening game of your junior year, right?
Yeah, it was. So that game was honestly wild. The freshman and sophomore year, I played zero. I think I played 30 minutes for the whole season of both of those years. So very, very minimal. We had great years, which was great. The junior year, the roster was a little worse than most years. So I had a feeling that, if there was ever a year I was going to be able to play, it would have been that year. But even those the first two exhibition games that we played, I didn't get any minutes at all, or maybe I went in at the end of them. So going into Maryland game, I kind of was thinking, this is going to be another year of riding the bench and all that good stuff. And then, whatever it was, 5 or 10 minutes into the game, our point guard at the time, he was dealing with a sickness, Ryan Harrow.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, we didn't really have a backup point guard. So coach randomly called me. He yelled my name. I honestly thought I was hearing things at first, like, hey, coach, there's like 10 minutes in the first half left. I don't think I'm ready for this. But he kept calling my name, so I just went in, and the rest was just like history. Like, I was so nervous the first minute, and then once that first minute went by, and I think I got a layup pretty early on, that kind of gave me confidence. And the rest was just like, we're playing a normal game. Played with people. I mean, the team I'm practicing against every day is much better than the team we're actually playing. So things just got a little more relaxed, and we ended up winning that game at the end, which was awesome. That was definitely one of the highlights of my career at Kentucky for sure.
And like you said, there's something about going against when you play against your own teammates and they play at Kentucky.
Yeah,
they're really good players. So you can't get better than Kentucky. So
right.
Going against those guys, and if you feel like you compete with those guys, obviously I should be able to compete with, guys who aren't at Kentucky.
Exactly.
So that's how I always felt. Like, I played at UC Irvine my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get in at the end of the game against, I don't know, who do we play last year? Lamar or East Kentucky. Like, I'm not too worried about the guys being a lot better than me. I feel like if I can compete with my teammates, I'll be pretty fine against lower level competition. But you were playing against Maryland, and Maryland had some really good players that year. NBA player Alex Len. Can't remember. They had a couple really talented guys. That was a good team.
Yeah.
And was that the first year Barclays was open too?
I think it was. Yeah. So that environment, like, for a first game, that was pretty, like, it was packed, mainly Maryland fans. But it really felt like a tournament game almost.
Yeah. And I remember Maryland was wearing, like, very special gray uniforms. Like, that sticks out in my head.
Yep. For
And
sure. I think we wore some, like, different white uniforms that weren't, like, normal.
Yeah. So that just sticks out when I think of you. And I remember my dad really liked your game. And so we always talked about that.
Nice.
Those were like kind of like, obviously you have the John Walls and Eric Bledsoes and, the great, guys who have gone on to great NBA success.
Right.
But it's always been fun, like, looking back on those times, watching your highlights versus like Maryland and your season highlights. That was the first thing I did when I got to campus.
Oh, nice.
So
appreciate that.
Why didn't you decide, obviously, like, you had a very good final 2 years. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you had a lot of opportunities to play professionally overseas or in the G League, or why didn't you try and pursue that? Were you just ready to move on with life, or?
Yeah, there was, and I probably still wasn't good enough to even do the G League, but I think I could have found a decent little career overseas for sure. But me personally, I'm more like a homebody. Like, I've grown up in Kentucky my whole life. And there were just other things that, like, I wanted to do besides, I guess, basketball. And you probably understand this, and you'll understand more as you get there. Like, that 4-year thing at Kentucky, I mean, even the people that are one and done, they're like, it is a grind, like, mentally, physically. And so for me, like, although I had a great time, I was pretty exhausted by the end of 4 years being at Kentucky, like, just the whole basketball thing. Not that I didn't like basketball anymore, but I was just like, I think it's time to move on to something different. So I didn't really even look too much into the overseas thing. And I just felt like, basketball I had done my whole life, but as for competitively playing, I felt like I was done after that, and had got to live out the dream that I wanted to as a kid, and felt good with that. So that was kind of my thought process.
And there's a lot to be said about, giving it up on your own, choosing when you want to go out and how you want to go out.
Right.
And, you know, playing overseas is tough. You know, like there's a lot of good players, and it's hard being away from family. You know, like I have friends who play overseas, and you know, it's a grind, like you said. And I think that's something people don't realize about playing college basketball is how difficult it can be. Just, you know, mentally, emotionally, and not to mention physically. And you do it for 4 or 5 years, you know, it builds up on you.
Right.
And I think that's what people don't realize is you practice a lot harder in college than you do in the NBA. So the guys who are one and done, like they have one really tough year of practicing all the time. Like you get to the NBA and it's obviously very challenging in its own right.
Right.
But a lot more games, it's, you know, managing, like they don't really practice a ton. Where in college, you know, you're lifting, you're running hills, like it can be very, you know, it can pound on your body pretty good.
No kidding. Yeah, you're exactly right. I would 100% agree.
And then you wrote a memoir. Where did you get the inspiration for that, and when did you publish it? Just kind of tell me about where the idea for that came from.
Yeah. I think the idea came from, when I graduated, like immediately, I met a couple guys that had played at UK in the 90s, Jeff Shepard and Cameron Mills. And they did a lot of stuff like where they would take like people that just graduated from Kentucky and, you know, go speak at schools and churches, businesses and all that stuff, just kind of like saying hi to the fans, kind of almost like a farewell tour, if you will. So I did that for a while, and both of them had written books about their kind of time at UK. They were both kind of similar to my story. Like Cameron grew up in Kentucky, and they said that's something you might want to think about doing, just because you can, me more so than anyone else, because I was from Kentucky, I can relate, you know, the average fan. And they said people would want to hear that story. So I had the idea, and then my brother actually wrote it with me. He wrote more of it than I did. He's a really good writer. He hasn't really done much on his own as far as writing, but just has the skill for it. So we got together and wrote it really pretty quickly. And then I actually ended up kind of going on another tour around the state to promote the book and hand it out and stuff. So that was where I got it from. I wanted to kind of share the basketball side of it, more of the inside, kind of what you're talking about, the things that people don't see as much. And then there was the kind of the faith part of it too, on my faith journey at Kentucky as well. So I wanted to get that in there as well. So it just worked out, and I was probably 6 months after I graduated. So probably end of 2014.
And I think one of the things that's so cool about that, not only did you get to share that experience, you know, like your experience with people around the state, around the world who read your book, but also, you know, 20, 30 years from now, you get to look back and, you know, you have your memories right there in a book. And not only for your own sake, but, you know, your daughter, if you have any more children, you know, like I think that's, my dad played at UNLV. I would love if he had written a book and I could see, you know, I hear his story in there, but I think that'll be really cool for your kids to see someday.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. That's what that was the one thing I would always tell, like I would even tell you, is to write, keep a journal at your time. I didn't write anything while I was there. And it's amazing how much you forget. Like even now when people ask me questions about my time, like I honestly forget a ton of stuff that happened. I know there was so much craziness and all this good stuff, but even when I was writing my book, I was like, I can't. Like there were certain moments where I couldn't remember. So
yeah, and
that'd be my advice to you. Is write in your journal every day, just about normal experiences.
Yeah, I do. No, and that's
good.
That's and it's funny, like as much fun as, you know, winning an SEC championship is, and, you know, all those types of things, like, you know, the stuff that people see on TV. One of the things, like where I look back on the season, and obviously we didn't get to finish it out, and we didn't, you know, it kind of just ended. Like you didn't get to say, like it was a, you know, really unsatisfying way for a year to end. Like I understand why and everything, but I look back and like I miss going out to Cheesecake Factory, like before every home game, like and just dealing with, you know, my goofy teammates who do dumb things, like throwing shakes at each other's car, you know, at each other's vans. And it's stuff like that. And like those are the little things that I know I'm gonna miss when I'm next year an adult, not getting to be a big kid anymore.
Right.
Who were some of the teammates you were closest with throughout your time at UK?
Yeah. Shoot. Let's think about. So if I go back my freshman year, Brandon Knight, Ennis Cantor, which is a lot of people forget that he never played on it, but he would always come into my room. He called me Little Fella. That was his nickname for me. So I always remember he was pretty funny. Then that next year was the championship year, so AD, Kid Gilchrist, those guys were a lot of fun. Duran was just probably the funniest player I've ever played with, Duran Lamb. And then junior year, Kyle Wiltjer, I still keep in contact with him a lot. He was one of my best friends from that time. Alex Poitras is also a really good friend. Ryan Long, Sam Malone. Well, I guess are you the only walk-on this year?
No, we have Brennan Canada.
Brennan Canada, okay.
We have a freshman from Pittsburgh named Isaac.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm not exactly for sure on how to pronounce his last name, but good kid.
Gotcha. Yeah, so a lot like you kind of get close to like we call ourselves the Geek Squad, who were basically the 5 or 6 players that didn't play as much as the starters, because you kind of even in practice the way it's broken up, like
yes,
you're with them more. So I would say more of the Geek Squad is who I was closer to. You got Twanny Beckham, John Hood. I roomed with him for a few years. There was more too, and then at the end, like Marcus Lee, Dominique Hawkins, Derek Willis, EJ Floriet. Like I was there for 4 years, and it seemed like 10 new guys came every year, so it's hard to keep track of them all.
Yeah. So you said the Geek Squad.
Yeah.
This past year, we had Coach Robick likes to give guys a hard time.
Oh yeah. Who? Coach Robick? No way.
Yeah. So, the guys who didn't play on this year's roster, significant minutes. Dante, who's coming off a torn ACL. Zan, coming off a torn ACL. And Brennan, myself, and Ben Jordan, who's on the baseball team.
Yep. Okay.
So everyone else was in the rotation. There wasn't, there weren't really guys, it was either you played or you didn't with this year's team. And so Probes came up with the nickname the Fun Bunch for us. So you had the Fun Bunch and you had everyone else. And the way it just worked out was like of no one's planning or exclude, like the team got along really well, but we'd be at dinner. Like the first time I noticed it was in Vegas, and it was the Fun Bunch sitting together, and it was all the guys who played.
Yeah.
And, we went to Buffalo Wild Wings when we got, or not Buffalo Wild Wings, maybe it was BJ's Brew House, and we're sitting at a long table. It's all the guys who played on this side, and then it's me and the rest of the Fun Bunch on this side. It happened constantly, and it wasn't anyone was trying to do it to exclude the guys who don't play.
Right.
Really funny how it worked out that way. And so you saying the Geek Squad, that reminds me of
that was the Fun Bunch for sure.
Oh, so those are I have a lot of good memories with those guys.
Oh yeah.
And one day they let us all 5. They had the 5 Fun Bunch. Barbie wanted to work on their zone offense and their zone defense.
Oh.
So that was how it is. Like usually you only get to do whatever opposite of what the starters, or the guys in the rotation are working on. So like if they're working on offense, you're going to spend 45 minutes on defense, or if
exactly.
You're going to not get to shoot, but he went 5-on-5 because he wanted them to work on their zone offense on one end and their zone defense.
Okay.
Actually, I had a good day that day, and we were beating them 9-8, and then Barbie stopped letting the Fun Bunch shoot. He'd be like, swing it. All right, go to defense. I was like, come on, Marv. I was like, this is our one day.
Yes, I have that exact same story. We it was actually my junior year, the year that was Tara went to the NIT, but it was the Fun Bunch, or what we called the Geek Squad versus the starters. And Coach Cal was like usually we did that where if you don't get a shot up in like 5 seconds, he's all right, drop it, go on the other side, let's work on the starters. But this time he let us play for like the first 5 minutes. We got up 11-0 on him, and it ended with like a tomahawk slam from John Hood, who is one of the Geek Squad members. And I remember Cal just getting so mad, and he made us all run, as you probably know. Like if the Geek Squad's doing well, it's not just the starters that run; it's the whole team. But
yeah,
we always talk about that highlight of practice. It's the little things that help out on those.
You have one good thing that sustain you for a year. You know, you might have scored on 30 straight possessions one practice. You know, that's in 1 year out the other. You forget about that really quick. But the day we were winning, they're never going to live that down.
That's what you'll remember. Exactly.
I just remember Barbie. I was playing well that day. I was feeling a little bit good about myself.
Yeah.
I just remember Barbie, swing it, Riley, pass the effing ball.
I remember those days.
Sometimes you got to have a little bit of fun, you know?
Yep.
Who was, did you have the same coaching staff as what's here now?
I did not actually. So Justice and Barbie I was never there when they were coaching.
Oh, okay.
I had, so it was Coach Cal, Coach Robick, Orlando Antigua, if you remember him.
Mm-hmm.
And KP. KP is the man. He was there all 4 years. And we had a lot of like in and outs. Like Coach Rod Strickland was coach for I think a year or two, which was pretty cool. Tony Delk was there, who had played at Kentucky, and I'm probably forgetting a few others. But yeah, I know Justice and Barbie weren't there when I was there.
Yeah, that's excuse me. I know the coaching staff's been pretty consistent for the past few years, and I love those guys. A lot of fun. And were you would you do a lot of the KP workouts?
Yeah, the KP workouts, the infamous KP. That was honestly what, like, whenever people ask me like what changed from sophomore to junior year, like I got real serious about KP workouts my sophomore year. That was the championship year, and like continue to do those. I think that was huge. KP's like one of my favorite people in the world. So I'm sure you've had your fair share of KP workouts as well. They're no joke. We would do them. I would do them every day before practice, which is probably not a good thing because I would like literally go back into the locker room drenched, like dead tired, and then put on some other clothes and practice gear and go practice for 3 hours, which looking back wasn't the smartest thing to do, but it worked out.
I just I didn't do a ton of KP workouts, but so like on the days we'd have off, when you don't play as much, if we just like they'll bring the starters in, Emmanuel played close to 40 minutes a game, Ash played close to 40 minutes a game. Like the guys who played on our team played heavy minutes.
Right.
But there are certain guys who, play like 10 to 15. So they kind of needed the conditioning, stay in shape. And so they'd have us like, some of the fun bunch do the workouts with them.
Yeah.
And, you don't do everything. Like that's one of the things about being a walk-on is, you'll do certain things and not do other things. And, you're just there to, help and support. And so we're finishing up a KP workout. Like it's been tough. I have 2 torn labrums in my hips. Like running is really difficult for me. And I'm like sitting there, like I'm thinking I'm done. I'm like cheering the guys on. They're doing the LeBron drill, the 10 layups on each side.
Yeah.
Full court. And I'm like, good job, guys. And then Zan goes to me, he goes, you going next or am I? I was like, I'm not going. And KP goes, oh, yes, you are.
You're not going to get off the hook with KP.
Yeah, it's like, coach. And all the guys were just, they were dead laying on the ground. Then I go and they're all just dying laughing because I'm basically walking by the end up and down the court shooting layups.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah. So KP's an awesome guy. I know how much our guys love him and appreciate what he does for them. Legend. Guys,
he is a legend. Coach Cal is awesome, but KP is like the secret weapon that doesn't get a lot of the credit. But he is the man. Yeah,
no, I know. I would say pretty much our whole team spent a ton of time with KP. You know,
Yeah.
and Emmanuel would tell you how much time he spent with him. Nate, and he works with, if you want to work, he'll be there for you.
Right.
A lot of times, late at night, guys get a text from him like, "Meet me in the gym in 20."
He still does that. I'm glad to hear that he still does that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And guys love it, and that's why I think so many of our guys have had so much success in the NBA. They're pushed to such a high degree here.
Yep.
What's expected from them is a little bit less.
Yeah.
Or not less. It's just everything's different. College to NBA, different life, different game.
Yep.
Being at UK definitely, and with KP, Joel, and Barbie gets you ready for it.
Right.
Senior day, how did that go? Talk to me about your last experience at Rupp.
Yeah, senior day was great. I think we played Alabama. So it was me and John Hood were the only seniors that year. We actually started the game with each of us hit a three-pointer, which was pretty cool. So we started the game like 6-4, and then I think at that point we got taken out. But we both were, sort of in that rotation, that 7th, 8th, 9th spot. So I think we ended up playing a little bit more that game. But that was cool just to walk through the banner and all that good stuff, see like a little highlight tape and all that. So it was a good start to the game for a senior night for both of us.
Oh, for sure. How did you guys end up your senior year? I believe you made it all the way to the Final Four.
Yeah, we let's see, senior year. So senior year was the Aaron Harrison year. We actually made it all the way to the championship game, and we lost to UConn in the championship game. That was the year we were 8 seed.
Beat Wichita.
Beat Wichita State, then beat Michigan, Louisville, and then I forget who we beat. Well, we beat Wisconsin in the Final Four, and then we ended up losing to UConn. So actually my freshman year, we made it to the Final Four and lost to UConn. My senior year, we lost to UConn in the final game. So I hate UConn.
Don't blame me.
They gypped me out of 2 championships.
But you still got one. Talk to me about what it was like winning a national championship, because that's one of the hardest things to do. Just winning a college football national championship is really difficult, but you have half the amount of teams that are competing for it.
Right.
And you only have to win 2 games in the playoffs. You can be, as we saw with the 2014-15 team, by far the best team in the country. And, one night stuff doesn't go your way and, a whole season is over. So talk to me about winning 6 games in a row and how gratifying that felt at the end. Yeah,
that was just a really good year. It was our team was really small, not like size small, but the amount of players, we had I think it was only 10 players that year total. Oh. And only really 6 got any minutes. Kyle Wiltjer was the 7th man. We had Eloy as the 8th, but they probably played 5 to 10 minutes a game. And other than that, it was just 6 dudes. But those 6 dudes were just ballers. That was a really fun year. But you're right, like winning the college basketball championship is probably the hardest to win, because one game, one bad shooting night, and you're toast. So I think that helped having I'm formulating a theory on championship teams, but I think being a little too deep might be bad sometimes, like that 2014-15 year, when you're, especially during tournament games, when everything, like every possession matters so much, when you're only playing half the game, it's hard to really get in a rhythm. I think that team, like a big part of why we won so many games and won the championship, was we had those 6 guys. They knew they were getting all the minutes, and we also had Anthony Davis, which was kind of a cheat code at that point. There were a lot of things that went into it, but it was just I just remember being really close with that team, and we just had players that like other teams were just scared of, like Terrence Jones and Anthony Davis down low. I remember one game where teams would literally drive in the paint, and they would like try to pump fake 3 times because they knew if they tried to shoot any sort of layup, it was getting blocked and thrown to the other side of the court. It was just like we were an intimidating team that year. Like no one wanted to play us, and if I was on another team, I wouldn't have wanted to play that team.
You guys only lost twice that year, I believe, right? You lost to Vanderbilt in the SEC championship game, and Indiana, which they've made quite the big deal about, that win for a long time now.
They love that win. Yeah. I mean, in that win, like we should have won that game.
Oh yeah.
We were up, I think, most of it. And the Vanderbilt game is funny. Like Coach Cal he doesn't really seem to care too much about the SEC tournament. Like we really didn't prepare for Vanderbilt at all. He was like, we're going to get the 1 seed. Like seeding's not going to matter. Let's just go out and have fun. And we still should have won that game too. We just ended up blowing it at the end. But yeah, those were the only 2 losses we had. And every other team, I say they because I didn't play much, but we just dominated.
Yeah, and that's like you said, Cal. Obviously, we didn't play any SEC tournament games this past year.
Right.
But Cal's big thing is, we're worried about the big tournament after this tournament. Like this tournament, any game we're going to play, we're going to try and win. But go out there, enjoy this. We have bigger fish to fry down the road. Like we're going to win this game because we want to beat the team that's in front of us. But this isn't what matters.
Yep. Because I remember even we won I think a few, and it was like, yeah, we won a championship, but no one was really that excited. It's kind of like, all right.
Yeah, no, when we won the
little stepping stone.
Yeah, when we won the SEC regular season championship this year, we beat Auburn, and we won it with, I don't know, like 3 or 4 games to go. Like we, won the league by 3 games, and like pretty convincingly won the SEC.
Right.
And we got hats in the locker room. That was about it. Like we didn't really celebrate it that much. And looking back, because that's the only time we, like obviously if we had known we weren't going to get an SEC tournament, NCAA tournament, I think we would have celebrated that more.
Right.
How Cal sees, everything's just a stepping stone towards, when you're at Kentucky, winning a national championship is what's important.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say to BBN?
I just hope we can get a season going this year.
Me too.
For your sake and all of our sakes. That's really all I got.
Jarrod, thank you so much. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate this and how cool it was to sit down and have a chance to speak with you.
Awesome. I really do appreciate you bringing me on. I love what you're doing with this whole podcast thing. I think that's really, really cool. I wish I would have thought of that when I was there. So keep doing your thing. There you go. You still got time.
All right, Jarrod. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Riley.